Welcome back to 50 Days to Rebuild, the series where I read 50 pages of a physio book and do 50 minutes of exercise in a day. This is day 24. Starting off with the exercise portion as always, jumping into the big three. Looking at the curl up first here, I've really just been trying to focus on a better contraction, a more intense contraction in this hyoid region, so the front of the throat. And that's really been working wonders today, I found, and to some extent in the previous day as well. Just trying to really lock the head down onto the rib cage. I've been finding squeezing that a bit harder is working to sort of feel like everything is sort of locked in, there's no sort of disparate movement occurring. Moving on to the side plank, I'm noticing that I am getting better glute activation. I'm not cueing this at the start of the movement, it sort of just happens as I come up and forward. I'm happy that this is occurring, as I discussed in a previous video. Definitely helps to alleviate any knee pain that comes up during the exercise, and just generally I think glute activation in exercises is almost always a good thing. So I'm happy that this is happening. I am noticing that when it's working well, my bottom leg is sort of wanting to externally rotate. I'm not sure if that's something that I should play into or just sort of let occur naturally, but I'm liking there's some activation, even though I'm not necessarily sure why it's happening. Alright, with the bird dog, this was crap. Tried to, again, look at my side view, really just focused on the cueing. No luck. Like, I could cue as much as I wanted here, it was doing nothing for me. So I figured, again, like, I think this is a psoas issue, because I'm just getting hyperextension, maybe the glutes aren't firing, because I did try and sort of push away and sort of keep my glutes activated. That did nothing for me, and I thought, yeah, maybe I can't activate the glutes because they're inhibited due to psoas activation. Massaged it only a little bit, to be fair, and then tried to do a standing psoas stretch from Stuart McGill, which I actually found quite nice. I haven't really found a stretch for it before, and it felt pretty good. It was hard to do, especially on the left side, I believe. It took me a moment to sort of feel it correctly, but I did start to feel it, which was cool. So essentially, it's like a lunge followed by contralateral lateral flexion, a bit of ipsilateral rotation, and then extension with the hand sort of up, reaching over and around. That was quite effective. That being said, I then jumped into the bird dog, and on the left side, I sort of recorded it, and I didn't notice any real issues. Like, it looked like I was not breaking in the core, so that was awesome. But when I jumped into the right side, massive issues. Then I tried to do the sort of, I think he called it a slumped psoas activation from, I think it's Eric Wong. I like this fella. I've tried this before. It's a bit weird because we're getting into a bad position to start, but it sort of helps to get the activation. And this is probably the best I've ever felt the activation. And I was like, oh, that's where my psoas is. Like, I know it theoretically, but I've never felt it. It was more lateral than I would have anticipated. So that felt really nice, but still my right side didn't look right. Again, I think this is speaking to the need to massage, stretch, something. I know I sound like a broken record saying that. I've been very diligent in my reading, trying to figure out how to go about doing that so I don't hurt myself, because I have before. So I've just been a bit weary of that, I guess. But I'm closing in on that. We've read through many books related to stretching, so and the one that I'm on currently, which I'll get into a bit later, is also touching on this topic, so hopefully that's something I can address soon. With the bridge, pretty good. Sort of all I can really say about that. Did the glute med activation beforehand. Tried to get some external rotation and activation. Always that first set isn't normally the best, but at least for a little bit in the first set, I wasn't feeling the hamstrings. Then they came on. Then stopped, went through my second set. So look, I guess overall that's a trend in the right direction. With the hip hinge, I guess I was a bit primed to notice this, but particularly the one on my knees, I'm feeling the tension in the front of the hip. Like when I try and squeeze my glutes, it's like, oh, that's really tight in the front here. So again, this is speaking to that psoas tension. So in terms of what I learned today, so I finished Relax and to Stretch by Pavel Sassolin yesterday, so now I've jumped into Super Joints, which is sort of about stretching and mobility to cater to the joints. Now, I say stretching here, that's probably the wrong word. Having read through a bit of it, it's something I'm trying to wrap my head around. This book, I'm not saying it's contradicting, I'm just confused. But I am noticing what I felt like were contradictions, but again, just a bit to wrap my head around. It seems like what he's promoting here is unloaded range of motion exercises, which much like what he would say for the stretch, but doesn't sound like we're trying to do like isometric contractions. It doesn't sound like we're trying to add any extra load. It sounds like we're just trying to move through the range of motion. The argument here is that we're getting sort of, I think it's calcium deposits in the joint over time as we age, and that we want to sort of lubricate the joint and sort of keep it healthy. I think to some extent maybe destroy those crystals. He didn't really clarify on that. But they're talking about like really high reps that we're building up to here, like up to like 200 joint movements here, like for like an arm circle or like a little squat, or like these weren't the lightest of movements, but they definitely weren't extra load. Like this wasn't like, oh, I want to get some movement through my shoulders, let's do a planche or like a handstand push-up. It's like, no, like you're only supporting the load of your arms, which yes, technically is load, but we're not going beyond basically what the minimum capacity of it is. Now, why I say I was a bit confused on like a contradictory side of things is like in the previous book, he talked about not really taking the spine through motion. It did look like at some points he did, to be fair, in some of the pictures in the last book. Like especially like lateral flexion and rotation, he didn't really seem to have an issue with, but like forward flexion, maybe he had a problem with, whereas it looked like he was doing more of that in this one. But again, he's not saying, let's try and tense the crap out of this, let's really maximize the strain here. It's like, let's just try and get articulation and motion in a joint. And that is, to my understanding, a lot of the ATG argument around why they do things like Jefferson curls. Now they take it to the next level and load it. Whether or not that's a good idea, I don't bloody know. But yeah, it's challenging my understanding, I guess, of what stretching should be. I feel like I'm coming to a pretty good understanding of stretching, but this is a bit of a wrench in my understanding that, yeah, I guess factoring in the joint mechanics. The final thing I just want to discuss in this one that I was a bit confused about, he didn't contradict, like he did discuss this in the previous book, but just on reflection, I'm uncertain why this is occurring. He's saying that we want to decompress the spine, and that essentially this will increase range of motion because we're going to have like a bigger disc that's not compressed. So he and McGill are friends. I don't know if they were when he published this book. It's quite an old book, it's 2001. But McGill would say, like, when you get up, you're decompressed, you have all this extra fluid in the in the disc. Now you need to wait, go for a walk, potentially, admittedly, do gentle spine motion. So he does like a cat-camel. So it's like, take some time, do a walk, cat-camel, now you can exercise, now you can move. You're not going to have too much friction in the disc from it being too tall. So that sounds like a weird contradiction to me. It's like, he's trying to reduce the height, whereas Pavel's trying to increase it before doing some of these like range of motion mobility drills. And something like the cat-camel was actually an example he gave of a mobility drill, and that's one that McGill is fond of because there's almost no load on the spine during it. And if we look at it from that perspective, it's like, does the disc need to be smaller when there's almost no load? Or is it just that we want to compress the disc when we're doing something like the McGill Big 3, which is actually like relatively high on compression? Even though it's body weight, it's pretty high load. Like it's actually quite taxing to do. So maybe that's it. It's that it would be better to have some height in between the discs when we're moving with no load. When we're just trying to get joint motion, but when we're trying to really get muscle activation, let's compress. Maybe that's it. And yeah, I think that's sort of not the contradiction, but the two different ideas here. It's like there's joint motion and then there's muscular movement. I think what was confusing about that is it's like, oh, don't you have both acting at once? But as he was saying, it's like if you lift your knee to your chest, like, yeah, there's some muscular involvement, but it doesn't really feel like a massive stretch unless you're like super limited in range of motion. It's like, it's really just more of a joint movement. I think because it's not like this really integrated movement, you're not getting a lot of stretch and activation through the fiber. So maybe there needs to be two different approaches for these two different things. Yeah, that is about it for day 24. I am in a bit of a state of confusion, I think it's fair to say, but I'm really hoping that I can clarify my thoughts around stretching. I do think like I'm narrowing in on what is actually appropriate, and I think it might genuinely be a good strategy moving forward. Yeah, thanks for watching and have a good one. Cheers.